third most collected thing in the world, you know, behind coins and stamps. It's beautiful. It plays with light, it magnifies things, but it exists in a whole lot of forms that can be found in all different aspects of our daily lives, you know, from a drinking glass to the lenses in a camera or our glasses to, you know, enable us to see, to artwork. You know, it's a liquid, it's a solid, it's different shapes. It's just fascinating. It's so versatile, you know, from a fiber optic cable to a paperweight.
100 years ago, in the 1800s, there was a great need for containers of all kinds. Plastics weren't invented yet, and we needed glass containers, glass bowls, jars, glasses, dishware, and all of that was made by hand in a batch glass environment, in a factory environment. Indiana also was an incredible center for glass because we had the natural gas, we had the fuel under the ground. So from the little town of Winchester all the way to Elwood, if you just draw a straight line, kind of northwest, that's where this pocket of gas was under the ground. The factories would line up on it, drive a pipe in the ground and light it, and they had the fuel. And at the time, the scientists and the geological people felt that there was a lifetime unlimited amount of fuel under the ground. Of course, all the factories came, and I think it was exhausted within 50 or 60 years.
In the 60s, the studio glass movement got its start with Harvey Littleton and Dominic Labino doing a workshop in the Toledo Museum of Art, where they focused on constructing small equipment that an individual artist could use.
When I was a kid, my parents said I was really good at art, but I had never really formally taken any art classes. So I don't know, you kind of, for me, just sort of learned as I went. And when I think back to my first pieces, and I remember looking at them going, that's so beautiful. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. Well, now I think back, oh, I'm so embarrassed. You know, I didn't know how to draw, and I didn't know what I was doing. But that's what's exciting about anytime you do something new. You just learn, and you keep learning, and then at the point you stop learning, maybe it's time to get out, you know, when you've done all the possibilities. But I'm still working on it.
I was born in Winchester. So we were surrounded by all kinds of glass factories that were actually making the glass. And my father, his research work was in liquid diffraction of, X-ray diffraction of liquids, which he taught PChem, physical chemistry at Ball State University. And so he got very fascinated with glass and began to play with glass. And so that's how, as a young man, I became very familiar with glass and began to make things at the age of 8, 9, 10 years old.
I got involved because two other fellows and I had a gallery, and we were buying glass from other artists. And a fellow named Chris Heilman came through in a beat-up old pickup truck one time selling goblets and vases, and we bought from him. And then we wanted to reorder, and he said, I can't come, you'll have to come and pick it up. So I drove to Athens, Ohio, to his studio, and he was working that evening, and I got to see the equipment, and he let me try it. And if you're of a particular mindset, you know, and you're exposed to something like that, it's infectious. You know, I got to make a little paperweight that night, and then driving back, all I could think of was building kilns and making tools and doing all that.
Glass, it breaks. You know, you can't paint over it if it breaks. Now if I'm doing a metal overlay and I go, ooh, you know, I don't like this, it's too stubby, or I want to branch here, I can add and subtract on that. But if I get the overall drawing wrong, I just have to start all over. You know, if it breaks, this is why I'm one of the few people that does this work. it is so easy to break the glass because you have to solder it. And glass, you know, if it's not annealed properly, or if there's sometimes there's little pieces of sand or dirt, or there's tiny cracks in there, so anything can break it. That is heartbreaking.
There's an element of risk. You have to approach it with that in mind. You know, I mean, let alone the tools, but the equipment. You're dealing with gas and electricity and things that are 2,000 degrees hot, you know. It's a little frustrating not being able to touch, you know, a piece of art that you're creating, but you just learn to respect all those issues, and I've got all my fingers and haven't burned myself, and I guess I've been lucky.
Because every day you come to work, it's something different, something new that you're making. There are no molds, and so there is a sense of repetitiveness, but the repetitiveness is really an important part of what we do in glass, because that rehearsal process of making hundreds and hundreds of the same item over and over, the quality improves.
Glass is interesting because of the way the light's transmitted through it. It's vibrant, and it's literally alive. Glass is literally in a state of flux all its life. You know, it's always going from the components and then being made and then back to gravity. You know, it's always sinking very, very slowly, but it's in constant motion. And I think, I don't know, it's the textures and the light. I think it's very exciting.